Two words steadied a country through wars, scandals, and seismic social change. Carry on. Behind those words sat a monarch who turned patience into policy and ritual into strategy. Today, we're unpacking the surprisingly modern playbook often associated with Queen Elizabeth II and now tested under King Charles III and Queen Camilla for surviving disruption without losing the crown's mystique. You'll hear how a 5-minute broadcast calmed a nation, why a handshake rippled across centuries, and how bookkeeping and Instagram posts, yes, Instagram, became tools of state. Stick around. Some of the quiet moves are the most radical. Introduction: the Crown's Paradox of Power. The British monarchy wields no executive power in everyday governance, yet it still anchors national identity, ceremony, and soft power. That paradox creates a challenge: how to matter without meddling. Over the last 7 decades, 3 strategic pillars helped the crown ride out storms, from the 1992 Annus Horribilis to a global pandemic. Symbolic leadership that comforts without taking sides. Institutional agility, adjusting rules, finances, and roles to suit the century. Narrative control, enough visibility to stay relevant, enough distance to stay credible. We'll walk each pillar with concrete examples, numbers, and a few undertold stories, then test how those tactics translate to today's smaller, scrutiny-saturated royal team. Section 1. The operating code: silence, symbols, and the just enough message. The monarchy's first strategy sounds almost like a koan: do less, mean more. It's restraint with intent. Television as a bridge, not a stage. In 1957, a young Elizabeth II made her first televised Christmas broadcast, inviting people into a domestic-looking set that was actually a constitutional innovation, bringing the sovereign into living rooms. The point wasn't exposure, it was proximity without intimacy, a pattern that hardened into ritual and helped the institution feel familiar as Britain modernized. When silence breaks, the crown's unofficial maxim, never complain, never explain, is famous precisely because exceptions are rare and deliberate. After Princess Diana's death in 1997, the Queen delivered a live address as your queen and as a grandmother. It wasn't politics, it was emotion with boundaries, enough to acknowledge grief, not enough to litigate blame. That choice recentered the crown's role, steadying, not steering, crisis messaging in the smartphone era. During COVID-19, the Queen's April 2020 broadcast reached an enormous audience across UK channels and online. The message's power wasn't in new information. Downing Street handled that. It was in tone, shared sacrifice, gratitude to workers, and the quietly explosive line, "We will meet again." No policy, just posture, and yet it worked as a national pressure valve. Did you know? Long before royal Instagram hits, the Queen sent an email in 1976 and posted her first Instagram in 2019 from the Science Museum, pairing a letter by Charles Babbage with modern computing, an on-brand wink that said, "We know the past and we see the future." And because social platforms can turn toxic, the royal household published social media community guidelines, a small but telling example of defining the terms of engagement in an unruly arena. Selective voice. In 2021, Buckingham Palace issued a brief, carefully worded statement after the Oprah interview, including the now famous line, "Recollections may vary." It was a textbook example of the just enough message. Acknowledge, don't escalate. Takeaway: the Crown's first play is calibrated communication. Minor key, major effect. Speak rarely, and when you do, wrap clarity in courtesy. Section 2. Institutional agility, rules, money, and the machinery of continuity. Strategy 2 is less glamorous but arguably more decisive. Change the plumbing so the house stands through storms, from civil list to sovereign grant. In 2011, Parliament passed the Sovereign Grant Act, replacing a patchwork of funding with a single grant tied to Crown estate profits and audited publicly. 2 things matter here. 1, accountability and predictable funding for official duties, and 2, the capacity to scale for major infrastructure, like Buckingham Palace's long, costly resurfacing. The result in 2025 to 26 is a grant uplift linked to Crown Estate performance, with the UK's National Audit Office scrutinizing spend. Love or loathe the monarchy's price tag, this is the Crown adopting modern fiscal transparency, a resilience move that preempts a common line of attack. Post-fire modernization. The 1992 Windsor Castle fire forced the Crown to rethink finances and public access. Buckingham Palace opened its state rooms to paying visitors in 1993. A cultural pivot that helped fund restoration and normalize the idea that palaces double as public attractions, not just private residences. That single decision quietly reshaped the relationship between royalty and taxpayers, visibility in exchange for viability, succession and regency recalibrations. Disruption isn't just scandal, it's incapacity and transition. The Councillors of State Act 2022 added Princess Anne and Prince Edward, trusted long-serving royals, to the roster of stand-ins who can handle constitutional tasks if the monarch is abroad or unwell. It's dry lawmaking with sharp purpose. Keep the machinery moving, remove uncertainty. Earlier, the Succession to the Crown Act 2013 ended male preference primogeniture and updated marriage restrictions. Another quiet integrity upgrade that aligns the Crown's rules with contemporary norms. Workload realities. The royal family site notes 2,000 plus engagements annually in the UK and overseas, alongside approximately 3,000 patronages across the family. That's the routine labor that keeps the constitutional stage set. Opening hospitals, swearing in judges, pinning medals. But here's the friction. A smaller bench of working royals plus health pauses have squeezed capacity. It's why you see more targeted appearances, higher impact set pieces, and strategic delegation, rather than attempting an unsustainable, everywhere all the time schedule. Takeaway. When the headlines shout, the Crown changes footings, not facades, funding frameworks, access policies, and legal guardrails that keep continuity credible. Section 3, Image Risk and Narrative Control. When to be seen, when to step back. If strategy 1 is tone and strategy 2 is structure, strategy 3 is exposure management. A lesson learned the hard way. The documentary that blinked. In 1969, a fly-on-the-wall BBC film, Royal Family, tried to humanize the Windsors. Ratings were huge. The aftertaste was bitter. The palace severely restricted its rebroadcast. Why? Excess access blurs mystique. The modern correction is clear. Curated visibility, walkabouts, posts, tightly produced videos. Yes. Sustained unscripted domestics. No. The point isn't secrecy, it's boundaries. Crisis comms, the line between private and public. The Queen's team institutionalized a minimalist rebuttal style. Correct facts sparingly, release limited health updates, and let duty events recenter the story. Even when statements are necessary, the recollections may vary note. Brevity wins. This approach isn't perfect, but it blunts news cycle oxygen. Micro reforms that signal macro change. When Queen Camilla replaced traditional ladies-in-waiting with Queen's companions, it was a small language shift with big semiotics. Modern court without the courtliness. Equally meaningful, in 2024, Camilla led the Royal Mondy service, a first for a Queen consort. During the period the King's public engagements were limited, it showcased operational continuity and a consort's evolving public authority. The slimmed-down debate? For years, commentators expected a tighter, more efficient working royal cohort. The concept makes budgetary sense and meets a public appetite for less pomp, more purpose. But there's a catch. Fewer hands in an age of more scrutiny and more causes can overstretch the machine. Even Princess Anne publicly warned against overslimming. The recalibration we're seeing now looks like this. Do fewer things, better, and explain why each matters. Expect more thematic clustering, sustainability, mental health, early childhood, literacy, rather than scattershot patronage. Did you know? The palace has codified online community rules to manage harassment and misinformation on royal social channels. It sounds mundane, but it's crucial. Set norms, remove the worst, preserve the form where the institution increasingly meets the public. Takeaway: the Crown's narrative strategy is edges in, control the perimeter, and choose visibility moments that prime meaning over metrics. Section 4. Soft power and reconciliation, when gestures carry state weight. Sometimes resilience is a suit of armor. Sometimes it's a handshake. Ireland, 2011. The Queen's state visit to the Republic of Ireland, the first by a reigning British monarch in a century, was a choreography of contrition and respect. A wreath at the Garden of Remembrance, words of sincere sympathy for the past, and the opening greeting in Irish. It wasn't an apology in the strict diplomatic sense, but it came as close as the Crown could, and it worked. That trip softened a relationship defined by pain and showed how symbolic acts can move history. Northern Ireland, 2012. The Queen's handshake with Martin McGuinness, once an IRA commander and then Deputy First Minister, was a 4-second masterclass in reconciliation optics. No speeches needed. The image said, "We remember, and we move forward." This is soft power. Take the stage for one moment and let that moment do a decade's work. The Commonwealth frame. For much of her reign, the Queen cultivated Commonwealth ties through soft presence. Visits, garden parties, youth awards, CHOGM. In 2018, leaders agreed that then Prince Charles would succeed as head of the Commonwealth, signaling confidence in continuity. It's the network effect of monarchy. Relationships outlive news cycles. Takeaway: in a system allergic to overt politics, gesture is governance. The Crown's resilience rests on the ability to encode respect into ritual and reassurance into ceremony. Section 5. The numbers behind perception, popularity, cost, and the future bench. Resilience is also a scoreboard. Public mood. Recent polling shows majority support for the monarchy overall, but with sharper generational divides. Older Britons more supportive, younger Britons more skeptical or indifferent. Favorability tends to cluster around Prince William, Catherine, and Princess Anne, with King Charles holding a modest positive position and Queen Camilla steadily improving. The big headwinds: cost, relevance, and workforce capacity, precisely the levers being tweaked by funding, transparency, tighter focus, and legal backstops like updated counselors of state. Money questions. The sovereign grant rising in 2025 to 2026 reflects Crown Estate profits and is circumscribed by law and audit. Critics worry about optics during economic strain. The palace counters with published accounts, project tracking on Buckingham Palace's reservicing, and increased earned income from visitor openings. In plain terms, they're trying to show their math. Workforce reality check. With a smaller field of working royals and periods of reduced availability for the most senior figures, the institution has shifted toward priority themes, deeper partnerships, and rotational visibility. Add in the legal guardrails, and you get a model that's stable by design rather than busy by default. Did you know? Across a typical year, the royal household handles approximately 100,000 letters, hosts approximately 70,000 guests, and supports thousands of engagements. Mind-numbing logistics that only matter when they stop. The resilience bet is that fewer, clearer, and better explained engagements will keep the monarchy visible enough to justify its status. Takeaway: support rises and falls, but the institutions that endure measure what they can control: money, message, and mission, and adapt the rest. Conclusion: the playbook in one line. The Crown's survival strategy isn't magic. It's maintenance with meaning. Speak sparingly, but speak for everyone. Change the rules so the role survives. Show up where pain is deepest and let the gesture carry. That's how a family story keeps working as a state story. If you're watching for the monarchy's future under King Charles III now, and one day under William, watch 3 dashboards. Clarity. Are engagements tied to real national or community benefit? Credibility. Are finances and operations auditable and leaner year over year after big projects finish? Continuity. Do the legal and human backups cover illness, absence, and transition without drama? Because in the end, the most radical thing the crown can do in a distracted age is the thing it's always done best: carry on, deliberately. If they keep pairing quiet with clarity, resilience won't look like resistance to change. It will look like the point.